Hey guys, welcome to this video. My name is John Watts. I'm a consumer protection attorney, and this is our first video in a series of videos where we will walk through section by section of the FCRA, the Fair Credit Reporting Act. This is the federal law that just massively impacts all of our lives because all of us have credit reports. And this is the law that says what can be in those credit reports, how accurate do they have to be, who can get access to those credit reports, can we sue if somebody violates the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And so what we're going to do in this initial section, section 1681, the rest will be like section 1681A and B and C, but this will tell us why in the world did Congress pass this law. Now, a lot of times we skip these initial parts, but I think there's value in understanding what was Congress trying to do, just to really understand what was going on. Now, let me tell you kind of the format going forward. In this particular section, we will hit all parts of it. Some other sections we won't. If there's something I skip that you have some questions about, just let me know. I can go back and add a video. But we'll try to keep this moving along at a pretty good pace. And so this is really designed if you are interested in credit reports, if you're interested in how to fix errors, if you're interested in what the law says. And particularly as we look at case decisions, to be able to come back and say, all right, I know that's what this particular court said. Does that fit with what the law says, what the statute that's passed by Congress says? So, all right, that's enough background. Let's get down to business. So here's the entire section, the section 1681. We're not going to work off of this slide. I just wanted you to see the entirety of the section. And you'll notice that there's two major parts here, accuracy and fairness. And it says Congress makes following findings. We'll look at each of these individually, these four items. And then the second major part is reasonable procedures. And we'll talk about what that means. So here's the first section. Accuracy and fairness. Congress makes the following findings. Number one, the banking system is dependent upon fair and accurate credit reporting. So then it's going to tell us, well, what happens if there's inaccurate credit reporting? Well, that directly impairs the efficiency of the banking system. So remember, we start off fair and accurate, and then they say, well, if it's inaccurate, here's what that does. What about if it's unfair? Because it's supposed to be fair. What if it's unfair? Undermine public confidence. So all of the statute is designed to say, let's make it accurate, let's make it fair. And so when we have questions about, well, what does this really mean? We come back to fair and accurate. And, when we think about it, what's the name of the statute? Fair Credit Reporting Act, right? All right, so here's the next part of it. Remember, this is what Congress is deciding, what they have found. So an elaborate mechanism has been developed for investigating and evaluating. So let's just stop there. Investigating can mean to go gather the evidence in the first place, but also if somebody challenges it. Well, let me investigate your claim, your dispute. And then evaluating is to weigh, to judge, to balance. And so there are 5 things that Congress said in the early 70s, there's already an elaborate mechanism, but we need a full-blown federal statute here. These 5 things are credit worthiness, credit standing, credit capacity, character, general reputation. I think those are pretty understandable. Credit worthiness, what's your score? Do you qualify? Credit standing, how are you looking as far as your credit goes? Capacity, can you still borrow more? Are you maxed out? Do you have the ability to go get more credit? How about your character? Now we don't see a whole lot of that anymore, but we do see like late payments and collection accounts. How about general reputation? Again, on the major credit bureaus, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, we don't really see that, but it's out there. All right, so here's the third thing. And again, remember, Congress is making these findings. Consumer reporting agencies, that would be Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, Innovis, and a whole host of other ones, have assumed a vital role in assembling, that means to put together, and evaluating, again, to sort of weigh, to balance, to judge consumer credit, other information on consumers. This is mission critical because these credit bureaus are so involved in putting this stuff together, evaluating it, judging it. We need this statute. And so there is a need to ensure. Well, if it was always happening, we wouldn't need to insure it. But the need to ensure consumer reporting agencies, so again, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion, exercise their grave responsibilities. So Congress is not saying, you know what, this is no big deal. I mean, guys, give it your best shot, but no worries if you don't do it right. No, this is very, very, very important. Grave responsibilities. And look at these three things: fairness, impartiality, respect for your right to privacy. So when they do things that are just unfair, so you send a letter to Experian and they have an expression. They say, we dropped the mail on the floor. That means they threw away your letter. They didn't do anything with it. They just go, you know what, we got 10,000 letters in today. Take half of them, throw them in the garbage. We quote, drop them on the floor. Well, that's not fair, is it? It's not fair for you to send in your driver's license, utility bill, so that shows your identity, shows your address, and then a credit bureau rejects your dispute and they go, well, you didn't include your driver's license and a utility bill. Well, obviously you did. That's unfair. How about impartiality? Impartiality just means treat everybody equally and fairly here. So let me give you an example. When you dispute something, we had a case one time where we had a letter from a furnisher, a data furnisher, like a credit card company. It says there was a mistake. We do not owe this debt and that they will get off our credit report, which they did not. So we send that to the credit bureaus and say, look, here's a letter from XYZ company. They admit that this should not be on our credit report. And the credit bureau rejected that, kept it on. We sued them and they go, well, we just assumed it was a forgery. Well, what evidence did you have of that, Mr. Credit Bureau? Well, we just couldn't imagine our customers, XYZ credit card company writing this letter. So it had to be a forgery. Well, did you call, and ask them? No, we just assumed it was a forgery. See, that's showing partiality where they're saying, you know what? We're not going to treat everybody the same. We're going to treat our customers better. And by the way, you, an individual watching this video, you are not the customer of the credit bureau. They don't care about you. Their customer is Bank of America, Capital One, Midland Credit, Portfolio Recovery. And this idea of, partiality, it reminds me of, you may have read the book Animal Farm. And I read in high school, but I think I have this quote right, where they say all animals are equal. And then some of the animals were noticing that other animals were being treated better. And they said, but some are more equal than others. That's how the credit bureaus treat their big customers compared to you. They go, well, we assume you are lying and our big customer would not lie. Well, why is that? Because they're a big customer. Well, that's not impartiality. How about respect for your right to privacy? There's two ways this comes up. One is, and this is the most natural way, they're supposed to carefully guard what are called users. Those are people who will use your credit report to make a decision on housing, making a loan, credit card, job, that sort of stuff. And so they're called users because they use your information. Well, there's a very elaborate system to make sure that only people that have a legal right to look at your credit report actually get to look at it. But there's another sense in which when they mix you up with somebody else, they put somebody else with the same name, their stuff on your credit report, or they allow identity theft to stay and you point out and they won't get rid of it. Now they are really affecting your right to privacy. They're not respecting your right to privacy. They're disrespecting your right to privacy. So again, keep in mind, this is not the most exciting stuff, but understand, what did Congress find? And now they say, look, there's a need to make sure that these reporting agencies carry out these obligations with a grave sense of responsibility. Now, they're going to talk about reasonable procedures. So notice this word require. You'll see it down here also, requirements. That does not mean it's a suggestion. It's like, hey guys, this would be nice. No, absolute 100% requirement. Well, who are they requiring? Well, the consumer reporting agencies to do what? Adopt reasonable procedures. Let's stop there for a moment. Reasonable procedures means you have to have procedures. Well, what are procedures? Well, those are step by step, usually written down or somehow documented. Those are the ways that we do things around here. So a 7-Eleven convenience store will have a procedure for opening up the store, or for, I don't know, changing out the hot dogs or whatever, for receiving fuel trucks that will, reload the gas tanks. There's procedures for that. Well, credit bureaus have procedures. Well, what their procedure said, we always assume the consumer's lying. We always believe our customer, and we'll never do anything the consumer wants. Well, that would be an unreasonable procedure. It might be a procedure. It's unreasonable. And we'll see this concept again throughout this statute, the idea of being reasonable and having procedures. You have to put those two together. So when the credit bureau goes, yeah, we don't know what we do with that. Oh, there's a court order where you got sued and you won, and you're bringing us this court file saying, hey, get this off my credit report. And they go, we have no procedures for that. We couldn't possibly figure out what a judge means when they say that the case is thrown out. Well, then you better get some procedures. How about reasonable? Well, again, it has to be something that is fair, that's appropriate, and we'll see more details about this. Well, what are they doing? They want fair and equitable. All right, and then look at these things in green: confidentiality, accuracy, relevancy, proper utilization of such information. So we want to make sure only the right people are getting this information, and what they're getting is accurate, it's complete. And then we come back to this idea of requirements. So that's really our section, this section 1681, just to get us started with this, to say, okay, here's what Congress found, and here's what Congress said we need to do. Now, the next thing that we will look at is section 1681A, definitions. It sounds like the most unexciting thing in the world, right? But I tell you what, there are times when we win cases based on understanding the definitions. Now, it's incredibly long. It'd probably take, 3 or 4 hours to go through everything. We're not going to take that long. We're going to hit kind of the high points. Again, if there's some definition that you have a particular interest in, just let me know and we can come back in. I'm not going to label these videos like part 1, part 2, part 3. I'm just going to do them by the section. So we'll just say, the next video is section 1681A. If we need to slip, section 1681A, subparagraph B2 or whatever, we can do that. No problem. So appreciate you guys watching this video. If you found it helpful, you know the drill. You can like it, you can comment on it, you can share it, subscribe to our channel so you get notified of the next video. And I hope to see you guys soon. Okay, thanks for watching. You have a great day. Bye-bye.